All right, we have some more drama and some hostile action and not much from Silo 17. Let's talk about Silo Episode 6 Barricades. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass. I'm here to talk about Silo Season 2, Episode 6, Barricades, which is coming to Apple TV Plus on December 20th, 2024. It is the 6th episode in the Silo Season 2, and things are starting to heat up, mostly in our old Silo. So is this episode worth watching? Is this worth your time? I definitely think you should watch it. I really like this episode. There's a lot going on. There are a ton of different storylines that we have throughout the Silo, and some of them start to have some pretty big consequences. So I really enjoyed this. I love this world. I love kind of like seeing how the different factions and the different levels interact. I mean, we got some of that in the first season of Silo. We get more of it here. So I am all about more Silo. I love this series. So I definitely think you should check it out if you haven't seen Silo yet. It's a really good like sci-fi drama. So definitely get started and catch up quickly. So all that being said, I'm going to tell you a little about the episode, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't know what happens in this episode, you might not. There are some surprises that happen. There are some big surprises, some big movements that happen in both areas of the silo. I would turn it off when I get to the recap. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. Let you when I get to the spoilers. So episode 6 continues right after what happened in episode 5, where Knox and Shirley are running for their lives. They're able to get down to the lower levels of the silo, but in order to catch them, in order to kind of like close off their escape, there was a barricade that was erected to get into mechanical. And now they're on the other side. They have to figure out what to do there and also how they're going to start fighting back when it seems like all the odds are against them. So, things I liked about this episode. The first, I still love the world. It's always gonna be my first one. I love this world. I love the like Fallout aspects, the like post-apocalyptic aspects, the like weird ways that the different levels interact and the kind of like political aspects of which level you're on. I definitely think it's a fun world to spend time in, so I'm always about that and happy to spend more time there. The second thing I love the action. There's a little bit more action in this episode. Not a ton. Silo's not really an action episode, but there is some action, and it is fun when it actually happens. The third thing I loved the various stories. Like there are a lot of different storylines, pretty much all in Silo original, the original Silo. And it's fun to have them all there, have them all interact and see how some of them affect others. It keeps the episode moving because it jumps around a lot and it lets you kind of like get different parts of the Silo in every episode. The fourth thing I love the intrigue. There are definitely some big movements that happen. There's some, alliances that happen. There's some political maneuvering that happens, and that is kind of a hallmark of the Silo series, and this episode is no exception. So all that being said, things I didn't love as much. Same thing as the last few episodes. There's an imbalance in the stories, and this one is particularly bad. Did you want to know what happened in Silo 17? Too bad. You're not really going to get anything. This is pretty much all original Silo, and that they've been original Silo heavy, so I imagine at some point they'll course correct. But so far, it has been getting less and less of the new Silo and more of the original Silo. We'll see what happens as the series progresses. And look, I like the original Silo. I like the characters. I like the intrigue. So I'm not complaining too much, but I want to see what happens with Jules. And we just don't get that this episode. So all that being said, Silo Season 2, Episode 6 comes to Apple TV Plus on December 20th, 2024. Definitely check it out. Check out Silo. It's a really good series. If you haven't kind of like caught up yet, hurry up, catch up now because you're going to want to see the last episodes of season 2. You're going to want to be all caught up so you can catch all of those episodes as well. So if you do watch it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And I'm going to really quickly go into a recap right now. So if you don't want to know what happens in this episode, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So I'll start with Silo Original because that is the meat of this whole episode. Pretty much all the meat. There's like 3 minutes in Silo 17. So I'll end on that. But anyways, the original Silo, there's a barricade set up on 130. We find out that the upper levels, well, at least not the upper levels, but like Bernard and the like IT group are trying to starve out Mechanical, trying to quell their unrest, starve them out, have them kind of like give up their own and kind of submit to the will of the Silo by denying them food and also poisoning their food. It seems like a calculated effort. At one point, Bernard said something like, the difference between a functioning society and chaos is 9 missed meals. And that seems to be a major problem. But they do get some help from the other levels. There's a big drop on 120. They drop some food down there saying, thanks for keeping the power on. And, Juliette lives. So they are surviving, but we don't know for how long. Now, Mechanical has been prepping for this, and now they have weapons. Earlier, Knox told the people in Mechanical, hey, if you get a request to make weapons, ignore it. You thought it was because he wanted to be passive because he didn't want like some sort of outbreak. No, no, no. Knox wanted them to only make weapons for him. And so now he has a stash of weapons and he has an arsenal getting ready for their future plans. Now, Patrick Kennedy, the tall, bearded man who threw the firebomb during their attempt to break out Cooper, I think. He was located by Billings and Hank last episode. Now he is, in custody, I guess. He's taken to a doctor and they're going to try to get the bullet out. And in exchange, Patrick Kennedy's going to tell Billings what he knows about Juliette and why he was taken into custody. So they have an understudy there, a shadow there ready to operate, but that doctor can't get any sort of anesthesia. And so they need a real doctor in there to pull the bullet out. So they concoct a plan to get Nichols down there. Billings' wife gets Nichols and she like escorts him down there, saying that there's a child that has to be that they need help with, and if the guards deny him, they'll be in violation of the pact. So they let him through. Now, eventually, this all happens over a few scenes, but I'll just do it all here. Eventually, Nichols gets the bullet out, and Billings then tells everyone to leave the room. And he talks to Patrick Kennedy and threatens him to tell him what he knows. And eventually, Patrick Kennedy does tell, although it's a little tough to understand. He doesn't like fully describe it, but I think that's just because he doesn't have he doesn't know what he is describing. But eventually, he says when Juliette Nichols was on the run, his friend Danny put something on a computer for 10 seconds. And this caused, IT to shut down all computers in the silo. They said it was a system-wide reboot, but it was really just to prevent people from seeing what was on the screen for 10 seconds. And the video, he said the video was like Billings' contraband page, the page he has that shows like I think a beautiful Florida beach or something like that. He said it was like that, but even more beautiful. I think if I remember right, it's the fake video they show the cleaners. So they like get excited to clean. They think it's so beautiful out there and they want everyone to see it. So the cleaners go and clean. This was also why we thought in the first season that maybe outside was actually beautiful, because just for a split second, you saw how beautiful it was outside, and then it switched off. So he tells him about this, and then Patrick Kennedy tells Billings about his agreement with Sims about how he had to get like dirty clothes on, throw that firebomb. In exchange, Sims was going to make him forget his time before his wife, so he like wouldn't have the grief. But Sims apparently didn't ever want to uphold that part of the bargain, and that's why Patrick Kennedy was shot, but he didn't die. So Billings is also investigating the murder of Judge Meadows, and so he tries to talk to Walker. Walker says she's not going to talk to him until he finds out what happened to McLean. She was taken into custody, and she doesn't know what happened. Now later, Billings comes back and tells her, an update. He's like, "Look, McLean was taken into custody. She didn't come through the sheriff's office." And she's like, "How's that possible? Like everyone should come through." He's like, "Yeah, but sometimes high value, high value prisoners go direct to like I think the Raiders, and she's probably in seclusion." Now Walker doesn't like this because McLean has health issues, so he doesn't think that'll be good. And Billings is like, "Look, I can help you get her out, but you have to help me clear her name. Like I can't do anything unless she's innocent." So seems like maybe Walker will now cooperate with Billings on this investigation. Now, meanwhile, up in the upper levels, Mr. Kyle is trying to decode that like encoded letter from Salvador Quinn, and he's making some progress. Bernard seems to think has some potential and also wants to show him some information about called the Legacy. I don't know if it's some sort of like old program, some sort of old computer. Bernard seems to have a pretty good understanding of like computer technology in general, so maybe this is something that he worked on, and maybe that's why he wants to get Mr. Kyle involved. But eventually, he makes Mr. Kyle his shadow. He's like, I want to show you the Legacy, and I guess probably to show him that he has to be the shadow, and so Lucas Kyle is now Bernard's shadow. Pretty good upgrade from the mines. It feels like Lucas Kyle is doing pretty well. I mean, he might not love this life, but it's better than being in the mines. So I hope you enjoy it, Lucas. Now, meanwhile, down in Mechanical, they come up with a plan to get the barricade moved. They're going to get a pincer attack, essentially. And so some of the mechanical folks are going to use a concrete saw to saw their way up to level 120, and the others are going to be at the barricade at 130. And eventually they're going to break them both and kind of pincer the guard so they have nowhere to go and make a deal there. Sims finds out about this because there's a snitch down in Mechanical who tells her like nephew, I think, that they were using a concrete saw and why they need a concrete saw. And so that person tells Sims, and Sims goes to Bernard to like give him this information, but only finds Mr. Kyle. And I think Sims gets the impression that Mr. Kyle is going to be his new shadow, and this makes him sad. So he doesn't talk to Bernard. He doesn't give him this information. He talks to his wife, and his wife says, people need to suffer their own mistakes. And you're the judge, you can't do anything about it, so just leave it be, essentially. So they eventually break the barricade on 130 down. They push the guards up to 120, and now they have them kind of like in a pincer. And the guards have guns, and Knox approaches them and is like, "You might kill 10 of us, but we'll kill all of you." And notably, the head of IT is down here as well. He probably wants to survive. Maybe if it was his men, he wouldn't care, but he probably wants to survive. And so he makes a deal with them. They say, what if the barricade was on 20? And the head of IT is like, yeah, that's okay. So now the barricade's on 120, which is good for our friends in Mechanical because there was a farm on 122. That is what gave them some of the food earlier before the Raiders cut it all off. And now they have access to that farm. We'll see what happens. I'm sure someone will probably try to sabotage our food supply, but it is a pretty big victory for Mechanical right now. So Billings is continuing on his investigation as well. He had previously talked to Walker about Judge Meadows' murder, and now he is going to talk to Shirley and Knox. He finds them after their eventful day. They're celebrating, and when Bernard finds them, he radios up to Bernard saying like, "I found the suspects, but I'm not revealing their location until after an investigation into the death of Judge Meadows." And this causes Bernard to freak out. He, essentially believes he's lost a sheriff. He kind of has, and cuts off all communication. Now, Shirley and Knox thank him. They say, thank you for that. And he's like, why? Like, I'm not on your side. I'm on the mayor's side. I'm on the side of the law. He's like, basically like, I am the law, like a Judge Dredd thing, and then kind of walks off. He might as well have just dropped his microphone there and walked off. It was a pretty baller statement. So later, Billings is eating in some chow hall. I don't know what level he's on. I assume he's stuck in mechanical now that he's down there and the barricade's on 120. But he is eating there and he's talking to his wife who came down with nickels to help. And we find out that his syndrome is gone. His shakes are gone. His wife like asks him to hand her a glass and he holds it out. He's holding it straight. It's not shaking. And he's like, I don't know what's happening. And she's like, maybe you've changed. I think maybe the implication is he's finally doing what's right. He's doing what like he believes is right. He's not hesitating. He's not second guessing. He doesn't feel like he's, doing anything wrong. And that might be what caused his syndrome. I don't know. Maybe it's the healthy food and mechanical, but it's a big change for Billings. He now seems to be on the right path. So that is the original silo. Silo 17, the 3 minutes we get there. Juliette wakes up. Solo gave her antibiotics because her hand was infected. That's what caused her to like pass out. That's why she looked so horrible. So Solo gave her some antibiotics that he made. A very impressive thing. Like good for him. He made them. He made antibiotics, and it seems to have helped her cut. She seems to be doing better. Now, she seems weak. She's talking to Solo, and Solo's like, "I have your suit. I'm not going to tell you where it is. You can get it back if you fix the pump." And she's like there's thousands of people there. Like they have days. He's like, yeah, you better get started on the pump then, huh? And I love this because it shows that Solo has a little bit of cunning. Before all this, it seemed like he was kind of, a pushover essentially. He was a little bit scared, but now it feels like he is really taking on what you expect the shadow of IT to have. Like he has some cunning. He's going to get that pump fixed first before he lets Juliette leave his silo, which makes sense because Juliette could leave the silo in her new suit and never come back. She could die. She could get captured. Solo doesn't know if anything's going to happen, and he has someone here that can fix the pump. So he wants to get that pump fixed, understandably. What I assume will probably happen at some point is that Juliet's going to fix the pump, and maybe this will be another silo. This will be like a second silo where some of the misfits from the old silo come here and start a new society. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, and what do we think is going to happen in the original silo? Well, they have a farm. I assume that there are still spies throughout the lower levels, so they will probably get their food supply hurt in some way, I assume. Billings is going to continue his investigation. I don't think it's going to end well for him. I mean, anything he sends up is not going to be helped. Maybe it seems like Sims and his wife are kind of like working against Bernard, like trying to like seed some issues, seed some problems to work against Bernard, and but doing it in a very smart way that keeps them within the pack, keeps them above punishment. So it feels like maybe they're gonna use Billings to like go against Bernard. Maybe they're gonna use Billings to figure out what happened and try to overtake Bernard and put Sims on as the mayor. That's kind of where I'm thinking it's going to go, but I guess we'll see. I guess we'll find out in the next couple episodes. But that is Silo season 2, episode 6. Like I said, definitely think you should watch it. Definitely think you should check it out. It is a very good show. It is a very good season so far. So if you do watch it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.